In this lab, we are going to copy data from Azure Blob to Azure SQL. To complete this pipeline, we will need few things. First, we need to create a source that is a storage blob. Second, we need to create a source data schema, which is a CSV file. Then we need to create a target dataset, which is a SQL database. And then we need to create a target schema, which will be a table. We will use the pipeline copy to copy data from Azure Blob to Azure SQL. In our previous labs, we had already created the Azure Blob. First, we will create Azure SQL Database using the Microsoft Azure portal. Right now, we are accessing the Azure portal. So one way is we can use the global search and we can search for the SQL database, or we can also try this option if we find SQL databases here. So either we can choose this SQL database or we can choose global search. Click on the create button to create the SQL database. Here, select the subscription. We have only one subscription, Azure free subscription right now. We will choose that. Select the resource group. I will use the pre-created resource group, which is resource group for the demo lab. Select a name for the database instance. Let's say it's POC SQL database demo. So this is the database we are going to create for this exercise. Now this database, we need a server. There should be a SQL server. Since it doesn't already exist, we will create a new server using create new option. Here we will specify the server name, POC SQL server. Location is East US. For all our resources, we are using the same location. Is already in use. So we'll give demo as well. Okay, this name is available. POC SQL Server Demo. And we are using the location as East US. Now there are three authentication methods. We are going to use SQL authentication method. The other two methods are either Microsoft Entra only, or it will be both Microsoft Entra and SQL. So we are going to use SQL authentication only. Here we will need to set up a username and a password that will be used to access the admin server. Okay, POC admin. Set up a password for this. Must contain the, okay. Okay. We have set the credentials for the SQL Server authentication. Now click OK. It will take us back to the database page. Waiting for it to complete. So while it is completing that, Azure Active Directory is now Microsoft Entra ID. It is still grayed out. Seems some option is missing. Let's scroll up. It shows the region is not available for this particular subscription. So let's select some other region. Okay, now this option is accepted. So we will click OK. Remember your username and a password for the SQL Server because this will be needed later to perform the connectivity when performing Azure Data Factory. So we have specified the server, we have specified the database instance name. Want to use SQL Elastic Pool? The options are yes or no. The SQL Elastic Pool allows you to share resources like your DTUs or vCores among multiple databases. This pool allow resources sharing between multiple databases. So we are not using the Elastic Pool for now. We will keep it as default at no. Workload environment is development. We are using it for testing and lab purpose. So it is not a production environment. We will keep it at development. And then storage and CPU. Here we will get to select the service tier, compute tier, and computer hardware. Here we will use the basic, which is for the less demanding workload because this is a test environment. So we are using the service tier as basic. So once we select the basic, it automatically moves to 2 GB of the disk size and 5 DTUs. Let's apply this configuration. So basic comes with 5 DTUs and data max size of 2 GB. After this, let's select a backup storage redundancy. So we will leave it at geo redundant backup storage and we will go for networking section. Here we will select the connectivity method and we will choose public. Scrolling down to the firewall rules, select yes to allow Azure services and resources to access the server and add current client IP address. Select yes for this as well. Scrolling down, the last option on this page is connection policy, where we are going to leave it to default, no changes being made there, and we are moving to the security section. So click next to move to the security page. On this, enable Microsoft Defender for SQL, and we are going to use start free trial here. This trial is available for 30 days. Other two options, we are not going to configure them. So we will leave them at default. Hit next for additional settings. Here we will specify the data source. We'll use sample. Selecting the sample will modify the compute plus storage setting configured in basic for backup compatibility. Okay. Database collection defines rules that sorts and compare the data. So we have to select the default or leave it at default there. Next, going to the tags window, POC tag name, POC SQL. So let's review. So we have a balance, credit balance in our account, and this will cost us this much USD. It's in USD actually. And this is a per month cost. So let's validate all the settings. And once we have validated our settings, let's click create. This will start initializing the deployment. So currently it is validating. Once validated, it will initialize, it will submit, and then it will deploy. So right now it is initializing the deployment. After initializing, it is submitting the deployment. It will show us the deployment is in progress. And once it is complete, it will show the deployment is complete. So these are the deployment details that are available. Once the deployment is complete, we can access the deployment detail as well. This is Azure free subscription, so we are using the basic features that are available for testing purpose. It might take another minute or so to complete the deployment. So once the deployment is complete, validate the deployment status, check the resources, and access the SQL database. It is creating our resources. Receive the notification deployment succeeded. Your deployment is complete. And if we scroll down to the deployment details section, it will show us the resources that are created with this instance. POC SQL Server Demo. This is the SQL Server instance. And these are the other services or other daemon that are created with this. Access go to resources. So we are on the SQL Server page. Here we can go to the query editor. Enter the username and a password that we created SQL Server with. So provide credentials to access the SQL Server and click OK. It will authenticate and open the query editor, and it will show the sample tables. Here we have those. So this is how we create the SQL database. In the previous session, we have already created the blob storage. This session, we have created the SQL database. And now we will do the lab to copy the data from blob storage to Azure SQL.